a deal. After all, the entity cannot be observed by anyone except for those of SCP-738. For anyone not sitting in the special chair, the most they'll see of the entity is the throne shifting as it leans backwards or sits up. It isn't interested in being seen by anyone who isn't part of the transaction. This entity is clearly quite the negotiator, and doesn't waste any time in getting to the meat of the conversation. During tests by the Foundation, recordings have been made of the entity's voice, making all manner of enticing offers and promises to whomever is sitting before it. The entity will produce parchment from the desk, writing up what looks to be a contract with a quill and ink pot. If whomever is sitting in the opposite chair makes a formal request to the entity, it will cease its previous barrage of offers and take a brief pause before suggesting a price. During their first attempt to gauge the nature and effects of SCP-738, the Foundation sent one of its researchers into a room containing the desk, throne, and chair. According to his report, he saw a man sitting behind the desk, wearing a sharp red and gold colored business suit. The entity immediately bombarded the man with potential deals they could strike, offering him greater recognition and respect for his research, the love of the woman the man wanted, and even offering him the chance to join the O5 Council. Refusing to be coerced into any of these deals, the researcher left the room and seemed to suffer no adverse effects for his refusal. Since this initial incident, when testing the behavior and effects of SCP-738, the Foundation primarily uses D-Class personnel. As we all know by now, these personnel are considered disposable, having been recruited from prisons around the world, and ones testing SCP-738 are fitted with an explosive collar, just in case. In one instance, one of these Class D personnel placed before the SCP-738 entity reported that this time, it had taken on the appearance of a beautiful, seductive woman. During the initial proposals made by the SCP-738 entity, the inmate was offered his freedom. The price of freedom is often high, but the Class D may not have been expecting the price to be the death of his best friend. But the inmate agreed to the terms of the deal he'd been offered and vanished shortly after. 5 hours later, though, he was recaptured by Foundation personnel. When another member of Class D personnel, a non-native English speaker, sat down to bargain with SCP-738, the entity communicated with him in his first language. Their deal, while similar to the previous test, used more specific wording. The Class D inmate asked for the power to never be held in a cell again, rather than just for freedom. The price asked for by the SCP-738 entity this time was every memory of the man's mother. After he accepted, an incident broke out which resulted in the inmate's death, as well as that of 12 Foundation guards. The next test the Foundation conducted into the effects of SCP-738 involved yet another Class D, this time utilizing an inmate with dyslexia and a mental disability, who reported that the entity appeared to take the form of a large pink rabbit. Once again adapting to the subject before it, the entity drew crude pictograms on its parchment, trying to convey a deal to the latest Class D to sit across the desk from it. There were a few words scattered about the page in English, but mostly unrelated insults aimed at the inmate's intelligence, or questioning the man's understanding of the deal the entity was proposing. The entity offered the man a sloppy Joe, stating the price to be Mopsy, the name given to a toy that the inmate had smuggled into the Foundation and been allowed to keep. Upon accepting the deal, a fine china plate appeared in front of the man, with the promised sandwich upon it. The man quickly finished the food that the entity had provided, only to become distressed when he realized that Mopsy had vanished. Shortly after the test had